Yeah, and you virtually stormed into those roles. You stormed into City Hall, you stormed into the leadership of the opposition and then Premier of Queensland. You weren't mucking around, and there's a little bit of your experience in the army getting things done in the way that you started your political career. Would you agree?
Oh, very much so. I mean, I'm about outcomes and not about the politics. That was always my thing. I learnt to, frankly, get into the profession of politics and play a fairly good political game, if I can put it that way. But for me, ultimately, if it had to be done, it was done, and it had to be approached in that way. And sadly, my biggest criticism, and I often am saying this on this network, is that more and more the politicians we're seeing across the political spectrum in this country, at the three levels of government, are about the position and the game of politics rather than actually getting stuff done. And it really makes me cranky.
Yeah, I don't know whether they copy from their public servants or the public servants are too much of an influence on the politicians, but you're right. Especially at this time in our history, after a pandemic, after enormous grief through bushfires, there's never been a more appropriate time to get things done. And I still get a feeling that we're slow on the uptake, Campbell.
Oh, we're very slow on the uptake, and it doesn't matter what level of government you look at the moment, they're not working hard enough. They're not, for example, in local governments across the nation, realising this is a serious issue, and their responsibility is to get things through their planning systems as quickly as possible. Good projects that will employ tradies, that will employ consultants, that will actually see money come into the coffers of local government, provide great homes for people or office buildings or new retail premises. They're being held up, and they shouldn't be held up at a time like this. You turn to the state level, red tape and bureaucracy impacts on every small and medium-sized business. Larger businesses have the capacity to deal with red tape far more easily, and indeed red tape often stops decent competition and better outcomes for consumers. Yep. And then you go to the federal level and, they're my crowd. They've got to do a better job. I mean, they said they were going to build dams and irrigation schemes. I haven't seen any yet. I've seen consultancies, I've seen studies, but I actually haven't seen the work being done. And so it is. I mean, I got elected as Lord Mayor in in March 2004, Chris, and I left basically 7 years later. And by the time I'd left, we'd built one tunnel, 2 bridges, had commenced work on another tunnel, which is now known as Legacy Way, and also got the state government to come on board and build a thing called Airport Link, which was finished only a year or two later. So that's what was done in 7 years. But, you see these administrations down this country, they're year after year after year. I mean, I've got to make a pointed comment here about the Palaszczuk government. They've almost been in office for 6 years now, and what infrastructure track record can they point to? The things that have actually been finished.
No, not much.
But so it is across the nation, across the political spectrum. I stress I'm throwing this criticism at all politicians, all political parties, and the 3 levels of government.
I think that's entirely fair, and we're frustrated. As voters, we're frustrated with all of that.